Okay, so I explained this entire machine while I was making the video and the audio broke. So I have to redo this part. Hopefully it comes out well enough. But what I'm showing off here is a base automation machine that would work at like a zerg level. Okay, so right now I'm showing off some of the chests. These 4 floors that I'm accessing right now, all 16 of these chests, they're all linked together by the 2 lines that you see on the wall, the blue and the red. I am going to go investigate these a little bit closer here in a second. But essentially what this works as is the main center brain for your loot storage. And from here, anything can either have items requested to it that need to be put into storage or pushed out to where they need to go. So the red line is really simple. It's just a storage connector on each of the chests that goes into a merger. That merger line goes all the way around, and then at the end of that merger line, you have all 64 chests right behind it, right? Just connected by mergers. That makes your main red line. The blue line, yeah, see, there I go. I'm like, there's your red line there. But so the blue line is the same thing, just in the opposite direction with a conveyor and then a merger up at the top, right? And so this determines what specifically goes in this chest. In this case, I'm out of wood, but I also decided I wanted a full large chest, so I didn't put any sort of limitations on there. The max and the min are both blank. In a little bit, I'll show you something where I think I actually will here now. Yep, so you see how I've got 3 different types of armor in here. That's just 3 separate items with 16 maximums. So you could, in theory, have 48 individual different items in one chest that the computer would track and refill whenever any of those specific items are missing. A lot of the time, it's better just to do full chests. I kind of slopped this all together. This isn't like what I'd actually run, I think, with a Zerg, and it's dependent on what you're trying to do with the machine and such. The top storage doesn't even have to be 64. Um, doesn't even have to be 64 chests. It could be as small as like 8 or 16. But so at this point, I've moved on to a drop chest, right? You see this chest is connected on one side to the blue line. That just runs up to a bunch of other mergers. You can have up to 64 drop chests on the line. And the 3 chests to the left that I have here under the green cable, those are all just pushing over to the main. That gives you more chest slots to use on the blue, because those 3 to the left are still connected to this chest and will eventually get pushed up to the main system, but then aren't actually counted against your max of 64 for the blue line. So just a good way to deal with like if you have a lot of you need a lot of space. You got 8 guys coming home at once, need to drop into like 6 chests. That can all pump into one, and not draw on your system as heavily as it could. And so right now my system is full of charcoal. That chest also works as your trash chest. So anything that the system isn't specifically looking for will show up there. And I'm about to go up here and prove that my charcoal chest is full. And that's essentially why downstairs that entire dump chest was. There you go. Yep. So anything that the system can't take will back up in those trash chests downstairs, like I was showing. And you might think, well, what if I wanted more than 1 chest of metal, 1 chest of wood, or whatever it is up here, right? Like 48,000 isn't enough wood storage for my Zerg. So those little yellow pipes coming out of the front that I'm going to follow down, these all work as auxiliary storage. You'll see I've got a couple loops, but they're just like additions of 4. So you've got 4 chests that, in that case, the bottom was frags, the top is wood, which I'm out of, so it'll be empty. But um, these just push and pull essentially to that main chest. So I'm going to show you the connectors here in a second, or the conveyors. And you have to be standing to look at conveyors for some reason. You can't do it while you're crouched, at least in a small space like that. But so you'll see this one, one of these pulls 40K and the other one pushes 42, or I may have that slightly backwards. But essentially it's whenever the top chest has under 40K or less, it will get pumped into it from these 4, and then whenever the top system has more than 42K, it's going to pull back into this main system. So it just stops you from overflowing, and then always makes 30 40K available to the system. You could expand those up to 64, each of those extra storages too. So storage is really infinitely expandable. Not that you'd ever need that much space. So the whole point of this system is just to automate. It's to get all those automation functions working off the same thing, and then also lets you run the red or the blue line as if, like, let's say you come up with a new idea and you're like, I need these 7 items somewhere. You could just run the red and the blue line, have an intake and an output, and start doing what you're trying to do, basically while accessing your main loot. So I'm trying to remember exactly what I was showing off here, but okay, yeah. So I'm emptying some charcoal out, and you'll see other items start to flow into the system. I've got furnaces on the side that are going into those other dump chests that then lead up to this chest. Don't be afraid of doing that, of just having like a long line of chests that are essentially feeding up to the one final trash slash dump chest at the end, which is this one that I'm looking at. Um, just it honestly makes it easier from like a human perspective to clean and fix if your lines get backed up. But yeah, as I remove more stuff here, more metal will flow in until eventually it finishes pretty quickly here, I think. Yeah. Now I add some wood to the system in a little bit. I'm going to show off the furnaces, the vending machine, the tool cupboard. I think that's the majority of the system. Yeah, okay. So now we're just looking at furnaces, real straightforward. Oh, and auto crafting, but real straightforward. The blue lines go back to and I kind of miscolored them there, but they go back to these pumps. I'm sorry. Well, this is the green line. So this is the push line. This sends any, just any resources. And I was real sloppy here. I didn't. You can lower those numbers a lot. Basically, just filling the chests on one side, emptying on the other. Um, so that's the fill conveyor. I'm going to look at the empty conveyor here in a second. That's this. Yep. So that's just trying to pull an infinite amount of all those things into one of my dump chests, and then those dump chests go back up. And I had a little igniter thing for making it easy to light them all. Yeah, I think I'm going to throw some wood in the system here, just so we can kick it on later and see what that looks like. But I mean, this should kind of give you an idea of the power of the system, right? Like you have the one kind of drop chest you can deal with, especially if you have a Zerg that's got multiple like points of contact, people doing stuff in different areas, but like you want stuff processed. I mean, it is a centralized system, so it wouldn't work so well for like villages and things like that. But um, yeah, we have a 65 man that we'll be using something similar to this with, and the location of the chest doesn't matter. So none of these items have to be in any particular spot. Here's just the tool cupboard. I mean that's as simple as just filling a chest, right? But then it's all pulling off of the blue line, so I'm sorry, pulling off of the red line, so it can just get whatever it wants when it needs it. And yeah, I'll throw some stuff out of here. Within 3 seconds, it'll fill back up. That seems to be the tick time for conveyors. So, yep. You're also able to automate the locker, automate the vending machine. Both of those are pretty big. With the locker, I like to try to keep a high, medium, and low kit in there. It just lets people pick what they want to do, right? Um, and that's a really simple system. It removes your rocks and torches as well. There's probably a more elegant solution to that than what I have set up with the rocks, but um, if you run them back into your computer, you're just going to wind up with a trash problem later. So I like to keep that separate. But yeah, I mean, all this really is three conveyors pushing a specific set of gear out of the main line, right? So once you have that really smart red main line, they can just connect a bunch of pieces and has a bunch of items in its thinking storage where it's like, okay, I need to pull 8 of these or a full box of these or whatever amount. As soon as you have that in your main storage, all of these requesting side interactions just become so much easier. You don't need to build half the equation every time, if that makes sense. So what am I jumping around and showing off right now? Oh yeah, so here's your main lines, right? Your blues use mergers and the red uses splitters. If an enemy ever gets a hold of your red line on the splitter, then you're fucked. If they have like TC coverage on it, then that'll let them essentially pull your entire system once they know what they're looking for, right? All they'd really have to do is, I don't necessarily need to explain exactly what they'd have to do, but it would not be a difficult task to pull items out of your main. I had something to say there, but I have no idea what it was. So, um, yeah, I mean, but then you've got a smart storage that's filling your furnaces, your TCs, your auto crafters, your vending machines, your lockers. Like all of that is just pulling out of one system, and all you have to do is get it set up upstairs. It also gives you a universal dump chest, right? Nothing crazy about the auto crafting system either. So that's just basically a splitter off of your red line, a merger on your blue from the dump chest. A lot of the time, it's better to have anything. So whether it's a furnace or a um, auto crafter or any of that stuff, you want it to dump into a chest, not back into the main blue line. Like you don't just conveyor back into the blue line. Um, that'll cause, I don't even know if that would work, a conveyor, but you also don't want it pulling from multiple inventories. My crafting tables are kind of a bad example because I'd have less there if I was really doing it the way I'm describing, but um, I'd have less small chests. Like right now, the small chests are set up downstairs. I mean, but yeah, you can see like everything just pumps upstairs, and that's obviously expandable. As many conveyors as you want downstairs. See, the red line is infinitely expandable. The blue line only gets 64. So like you should be able to handle using 64 dump chests. Um, and then you could put 700 use cases on the other side because the mechanic that this really plays off of is conveyors can only see 64 chests in either direction. I mean, they do essentially see 128 chests, right? Like total. But the idea is anytime anything's looking back on the red line, it sees those 64 chests first. There's nothing else. I mean, that's that whole line. And then the blue is 64 conveyors that are trying to pluck particular items to fill those 64 chests. So yeah, you want to dump any of your outputs, whether it's furnace, whatever other systems, put that back into a chest and not directly back on the line from whatever inventory. I mean, see, but in this case too, right? Like I can just throw my gear in here. Ammo and meds don't work because they're so overcrafted, they're like backlogged. But everything else just went straight back into the system. And the locker was full 3 seconds after I switched into the gear. So, I mean, imagine an entire zerg that can just continue to deploy from multiple points on its base. You haven't even gotten to their main loot yet, and they've already used they can like literally use all their AKs or just spend all that gear. So, um, yeah, really really good for base defense once you get a complete system here. I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, so something to watch out for. You have all these things upstairs, the conveyors that you're not configuring until you actually set an item up for them. If you turn them on, they will just dump all of the garbage that's down on your different lines into one of your chests. It's fine in this case. I just leave it here because it's a test one, and honestly, it'll just get pulled back into the system at some point. But just something to watch out for. I assume I'm going to show off the vending machine here. Yeah, cool. So I'll buy two AKs. There's one AK in the vending machine. Purchase one. Within 3 seconds, it should start refilling. There you go. And all of that metal too is going straight back into the system because it's pumping into a dump chest, right? Not directly from the vending machine. If you had 12 vending machines, they'd all lead back to that same dump chest. Potentially do more conveyors just to speed the whole process up, but you do have to configure both sides. You don't want either conveyor to just be full pull or full push, right? You want to specifically say, hey, I know someone's going to trade me for this, pull it out, put it in the dump chest. Dump chest is just a universal dump back to either the blue or yeah, just connected to the blue line, really. So then the blue line is always looking to that chest for whatever those 64 conveyors upstairs are trying to pull. Still got a couple minutes here, so just curious what other if I highlight any other systems here, if I just kind of walk around. I do like having a high, a mid, and a low kit in there because also if you lock the locker, then the worst they can do is break it. Unless they get TC on your main line again and know how to do it and know what they're doing, um, that that system basically will only ever give up what's in the locker because it's locked. They can't just like keep pulling stuff. Um, you'd have to make sure you protect the conveyor as well, though. So we're just looking at the auto crafters now. They're going to have 4 patterns that will alternate. I'm on staging for this because I needed to do the 64 chest thing, but wasn't uh, wasn't on main yet. So the alternating 4 patterns doesn't work yet. It just gets locked on one. But yeah, and so I mean that machine's going to take the metal back up. It's going to take the HQM ore. Um, It's a really interesting system, and I think that 64 chest block in the middle really pays off. Um, just because that gives you like a smart center to connect to everything. But all right, that's probably good enough. I think I connect this and go like, oh, you could even pump pumpkins into your chest next to your TC. Yeah, look at this, dude. You want to run a pumpkin? Oh, that's crazy, dude. Now I got 20 pumpkins all the time. So, but yeah, you get the idea. Main red and a main blue line, and or you can color them rainbow when you actually do it. Don't like tell people which line is which, but you have a main in and a main out. Main out needs to be highly defended. Main in can basically be hooked up to anything. It's just a dump chest to suck back into the system and a trash chest. There might be an argument to make a buffer trash area too. So you could make like a 8 to 16 chest area aside from the main loot that just auto pulls everything, and then you'd have to go clean that out, and that would be kind of part of main loot whenever trash builds up. But I just see that becoming problematic. So cool. Thanks for checking it out. I'll let you know if I come up with any new additions to it.